Before that, we heard Mulatu Ostatke from the album Ethiopiques Volume 4, Yakermo Su. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce that, but anyway, tell me about Mulatu Ostatke.
Well, I got turned on to Mulatu hanging out with the Budos band. They were heavily influenced by that kind of stuff. And it's just like, there's that Ethiopian scale they use. I just love how it's like, it's kind of like, it's like this really grooving, hard groove. It's African, They got hard grooves and all this percussion. And then there's this, like, the Ethiopian scale on top of it. It was just like a whole different time. I mean, back in the 60s, the jazz guys that were taking a lot of those scales, obviously, like Coltrane. But it's just that my ears is really drawn to that sound, and the way the horns work together. It's like the horn lines are very long, kind of statement, going over these very static grooves that are just like really amazing, super grooving, like anything I'd ever. So it's
cool.
Just really influenced a lot. A couple of tracks.
Cool. Before that, we heard. I know you've been influenced by Eddie Harris. We play a lot of Eddie Harris on the show. That's from we played something from an album called Is It In, which I believe came out in 1974, and that was Funkorama. Tell us about, because you picked that one out, so tell us about Funkorama.
It's called, it's actually Funkorama, but whatever. You probably just made it.
Really? Really? It's listed.
Yeah.
It's listed differently on iTunes.
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it doesn't. Either way, we know we got the same.
Either
tune.
way, yeah. Well, I like that tune because it starts off with just him playing his electric sax with that crazy effect. And when I first heard his music, it was just like one of those things, kind of like when I first heard Gary Barnes, like, whoa, what is that? Because I'd heard like affected horn before, like Benny Maupin, on the Headhunter stuff.
Right.
But nothing like that, where it's totally centered around him, and it was just like him. And DJs like to spin that song, and I just, every time it comes on, it really grabbed me. The sound of his horn is so original, and just so, and another thing about Eddie is like, he's just like in the cut the whole time. It's just, he's just playing funky the whole time.
Yeah.
And the beginning of it, like the first 2 minutes of the song, is just him by himself just jamming, and it's like, you just feel it. And so when I heard that song, I was like, man, I got to, whatever that sound is, I have to get my hands on it.
Right.
And I ended up one day, this is back when I live in New York now, but when I was living in San Diego, I was like, I got to get that. And the first place I went to this vintage, like, store. I don't know why I went there, but the first place I went to, they had the very same box that he used.
Wow.
Not him personally, but, the same model of, like, old vintage electronic effects that he had. And with the microphones, you drill into the mouthpiece. On those old records, you got a spiral cord, mouthpiece box. And I was like, it was just like a gift from the heavens, I was like, unbelievable. So from then on, that's why that was a huge influence on, as the electric sound, it's kind of my homage to Eddie Harris, like the electric like Eddie Harris.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw that connection right away because there was always the electrifying, and he was really into having the idea of the electric saxophone in the title of the album, High Voltage, the electrifying Eddie Harris, and so on like that.
Right.
And I saw that correlation between your album and his older stuff. Before that, we heard Shuggy Otis, the title track from 1974's Inspiration Information. A lot of folks don't know about Shuggy Otis, but boy, he was just a great. He's still around, I think, isn't he? Is Shuggy Otis still around?
He doesn't play a lot. Kind of like ducked out of. He came out after Information came out. He did a couple of tours, but he started out as a young guitar player in Dad Johnny Otis R&B band.
Right.
So he was always like a great blues, and his first couple records was just like playing blues stuff.
And he was like 15 years old, right? 15 years old or something like that at that time.
Yeah, he was really, really young.
Yeah.
So he grew up with the music, but like Inspiration Information was interesting because instead of just following that, he decided to make a record where he like kind of just played most of the instruments, wrote everything, and some of the tunes have like just the rhythm ace and him playing organ and guitar and overdubbing everything. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I made this record. Was some of the tunes here, those like a rhythm ace machine. A lot of them started out with that, and I kind of like built the tunes from the rhythm. And so I just really, when I first heard that record, I was like, wow, it just blew me away, and it's just like an awesome bedroom record, and so that just concept really kind of
Right. And before that, we heard another record like that, Sly and the Family Stone, which was actually mostly Sly Stone, right? In this case, or there's a riot going on from 1970.
Yeah, same thing. And, that's the other thing is, I just love that record. I love Sly Stone. The way he sings, I kind of like, has really influenced the way I play the saxophone. And just also the call and response that's going on in Sly's music, and especially on that record, he did a lot of overdubs. That's why it sounds so cracked out. Like, recording over the tape and, over and over and over, having all these sessions, calling musicians in and then overdubbing his own instruments. At that point, the Family Stone pretty much fell apart.
Right.
So, and inspiration information, Shigeru's got you hear a lot of Sly influence music.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of the same thing, when, especially in that track play, it's like, you really hear, there's so many, it's very dense, and there's all these things going on, but everything's fine. All these little pockets. So much like back and forth conversation, jamming. That really kind of like, I can just look at that record, it never gets old.
Right. It's a real classic. It is a real classic.
Yeah.
And before that, we heard King Curtis from his album Live at the Fillmore West from 1970 with Memphis Soul Stew. He introduced everybody in the band there, but that was another one that you sort of picked out. Tell us about King Curtis.
Well, King Curtis was a huge influence, saxophone for a lot of people, a lot of generations later, like Dave Sanborn and, a lot of people like, Grover Washington, a lot of people like that, because King Curtis was a soul. I mean, he could play anything, but, he really came out as R&B soul thing, and he really, him and Junior Walker kind of really set a high standard and just a whole new sound, for that kind of thing. And so that really influenced me, like on the record, it's not a jazz record, really, in my opinion, anyway. But because there's a soul influence with the saxophone being the lead voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, on some of the tunes on my album, that's kind of like the thing that I was kind of trying to sort of get to in a way, like the old, like, Atlantic 40, Eddie Harris did, where you have, like, a band, like the Muscle Shoals band.
Right.
Or these soul players who would be like the house band, and then but instead of a singer, you'd have a saxophone player who lead stuff. I really just like that whole concept.
Right. David Fathead Newman and Hank Crawford and
David Fathead Newman, Hank Crawford, that whole kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, let's play something from the new album. We'll play Dark City from your new album. Tell us about that track, if you could.
Well, that track was that track started with a drum machine, and then I kind of overdubbed this like sort of wah-wah sort of keyboard, and then the thing kind of grew out of that. And through listening to like Mulatu and a lot of African stuff, the tunes in a 6/4 kind of meter, which a lot of their songs are in, and it just kind of like grew from there. And when I overdubbed except for the congas was played by Elizabeth Walker, I overdubbed all the hand percussion and the horn section, and I played all the keyboards on it as well. But then I had Tommy Brennick from the Buddha's band that played bass on it. When he plays bass, I tied everything together. But it had a very African feel, and once that was laid down, that's when I put the horns on it. I was listening to a lot of Mulatu, so it just kind of flowed, sort of like that way.
Well, let's go ahead and play that. This is Dark City from Cochemea Gastelum on the Burnt Toast Show. We'll be back and talk to you some more here after this break. We'll play some stuff that you've played on and some more stuff from your new album on this set. So here we go on the Burnt Toast Show.